Hello, and welcome to the Grand Cinema Motel, a musical composition sung by two friends who kind of sort of like movies. I'm Gus, and I'm joined by my co-host Alvaro. Tonight, you'll be staying in room 150, Weird, the Al Yankovic story. So stop, get uncomfortable, and throw on that please do disturb sign as we get weird with the Al Yankovic story.
I'm tired of people thinking I'm some kind of joke.
Your dad and I agreed it would be best if you just stop being who you are and doing the things you love.
My whole life, all I wanted.
I'm afraid we found your son at a polka party.
Is to make up new words to a song that already exists.
What is going on my weirdos and outcasts, and thank you for checking back in to a very, very special episode of the Grand Cinema Hotel. Yes, you heard that right. If you don't skip the intro, you probably heard our parody of our own intro. So I thought, what better episode to do it in than Weird, the Al Yankovic story. I'm joined by Alvaro.
What's up, guys?
And we're here to talk about the Weird Al movie, man. He's been in quite a bit of movies, but this is really only kind of a one of a kind or two of a kind thing, I should say, story about him. And I just had a really good fucking time watching this movie. What about you, Alvaro? I know you're not too familiar with Weird Al and the lore behind him, correct?
Yeah, we had found that out actually after just finding out I was going to watch this movie and just finding out that you had been a really big fan. I probably have more relation to it than most people our age do, and like white and nerdy, you know.
Yeah.
I'm aware of who Weird Al Yankovic is. I wouldn't say that I know more than a lot of songs, but watching this movie, we've kind of dove into that world, which is very, he's a one of one. He's very unique, and I think the movie basically is a riff on the comedic style, and I think this is a special episode because this is technically, it's our first comedy episode, and I think
like a true comedy, not just a it's kind of funny movie.
And it's funny that like it's just a comedic or a comedy that is so factual, you know. It's a lot of the times we don't get these
factual, or if that's even a word.
We get these biopics, we get these biopics that aren't too accurate, but right here we get the true story, and I really appreciate that in these films. You know, it's the reason why I come to the movies.
I like that you are already buying into the bit of the movie. You know, like that's the how we're gonna approach this podcast, as if this is all actual fact. You know, I didn't realize that this was a documentary before we hit started.
I mean, I'm a little ashamed to admit that I didn't know who the biggest artist in the world was, you know.
It was almost like Moon Age Daydream. Where did you find all this footage, right?
Whoa. Where have I been?
Yeah, exactly. So I guess a little backstory from me is that it's very confusing to me now. I can't remember if White and Nerdy came first or if I was aware of him and then White and Nerdy came out. So I had a friend in elementary school who me and him used to get along very well because we were just into a lot of the same things, just, you know, Xbox, Dragon Ball Z, right? We were pretty big Angels fans. So we just had a lot in common. And this was the time in my life when I think comedy was probably the most important thing in the world to me, honestly, like as a kid. They were my favorite type of movies. All I cared about was either trying to be funny or coming off as funny to my friends, cracking jokes. So when I really got a hold of Weird Al's discography and his material, and I watched UHF when I was a little kid.
That's what you're saying. Yeah.
This really felt like a special artist to me because like this guy gets it, that comedy is the thing that makes the world go around. You know, like this is the best stuff right here. Like to me, when I was a kid, you couldn't tell me that Weird Al wasn't the greatest music artist of all time, or that comedy movies weren't the greatest movies of all time. You know, like I wasn't interested in whatever Oscar contender movie would have come out in the early 2000s. You know, I was like, nah, man. Superbad and Old School and movies like that. Like these are the greatest things that's ever existed. No one could tell me anything different. So this was a really I don't want to wax too poetically and act like this is the most important movie I've seen this year, but this really hit me in the inner child. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that something that is worth acknowledging is that this is a genre of comedy and just comedy in general that we don't see much of. That's really highlighted. I mean, this film, where it's on Roku TV, it's free, and I think, and for this film, I think it's a good thing. Specifically, it's accessible, but I don't think who's to say what if this came out in the movies, how popular it would be. But I would like to think people would have showed up for this just because it has what we'll get into later, a pretty good cast here. And I also just think that what you're kind of getting at is this comedy that we kind of grew up in. We haven't seen a lot of movies like that in a long time. We had talked about earlier today how I had watched Funny Pages, which I really liked, but it's not that it's A24 comedy. It's not this type of literally whimsical type of comedy, and
it's not silly.
No, it's not silly, and I know that sometimes we talked in prior episodes that fun maybe isn't, people are dead inside, and that's maybe not what they're looking for. But I think this is just so nostalgic at the same time, because I mean, we talked about too before the episode, like he's been around for a long time, so he has a lot of influence, honestly, and I think you can't deny his artistry. And I think, like I said, I'm a little ashamed that I didn't know the world's greatest artist.
I appreciate the sentiment. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, I know we're kind of sticking to the bit here, but he really is a very influential artist and musician. Like, how many people has he inspired to be silly? You know what I mean? Like, how many young people in the 80s, their education into comedy was like The Simpsons and Weird Al,
Exactly.
And I can't help but feel like anytime I hear a comedy song, whether it be like Bo Burnham or anybody else, that this is Weird Al. Like, this is what Weird Al does, and like everybody is playing for second place because this guy is, I'm sure he didn't invent the parody song. I know his, we'll get into it a little later. His inspiration was Dr. Demento, portrayed by Rainn Wilson, but I can't think of anybody else who's probably had a bigger influence on the silly of the world than Weird Al. I think of Weird Al, The Simpsons, and like Mad Magazine and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have people just close and like Little Dicky influences so much.
There you go. Or something like how like Young Gravy makes funny songs, or like any person who makes funny music,
which isn't too many of them, but he's the king of it. And it's because he's done it through so many genres of music, and we've kind of talked about too, he's kind of had his own original songs as well. So I mean, I know that his influence in the movie is just he was him. I know he doesn't have very much actually telling what happened in the movie, correct? Like, actually, what do you mean by direction wise?
Oh no, well, he's a producer. And
exactly.
I do think that he did have a lot of influence on the, like, let's not take this serious. Let's have this be as funny and silly as my life's work,
Okay.
Which I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
Like, don't try to drama. Like, he didn't want to dramatize it. He didn't want to walk the Line or Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, no, this is very much in line with another one of our all-time favorite movies, which is Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Yes.
You could probably argue that that's the greatest music biopic, and it's not even about a real fucking person. It's more of a spoof on an entire time span of music from like the 50s to, I think, what is the Walk Hard rap version at the end, you know what I mean? So and I mean, another one that people like to bring up is Pop Star Never Stopping
exactly.
or whatever, which I have not actually seen. I don't know if it's just because I'm not interested in even a send up or a spoof of pop stars, because I don't really like too many.
Yeah.
Like, what really turned me off about that movie, and I'm not even gonna lie, is just that I was younger, and it was, it's a parody of people like Justin Bieber and stuff like that, and I'm like, I care so little that I don't even care to watch you make fun of him.
Yeah, I understand. I mean? And this actually opened kind of like kind of made me think about this stuff, is like, Justin Timberlake's, like, the bits that he would do
on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah,
he's quite funny.
They're so influenced by this type of comedy, and then I had something else in mind. I just completely lost my train of thought.
We'll come back to it if you find it.
Exactly, but just do you have any more thoughts or?
Like first reactions and things like that. Oh, well, I thought this is like easily the funniest movie I've seen this year, and it probably will be. I can't even think of any off the top of my head that we watched so far where I was like, that's extremely funny. Oh, well, I guess like the only two would really be Everything Everywhere All at Once and Jackass Forever. Those were the two funniest movies I've seen this year.
Such different types of comedy too, I mean, everything.
Well, there's a lot of slapstick weird, like even Everything Everywhere All at Once, you could argue that that is like something that would be influenced by Weird Al. It's so slapstick, it's so silly, it's so Looney Tunes and Simpsons and things like that, you know?
Yeah.
And
That's true.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna sit here and be like Everything Everywhere All at Once was directly influenced by Weird Al, but when you think of just how long his career has spanned and how much he's done, and the fact that he's made fun of basically everything, it's kind of hard to not say that he's a broad influence. You know, like he's an umbrella that other people stand under. You know,
Exactly.
but yeah, I thought this was a hilarious movie. I thought Daniel Radcliffe was perfectly cast. Like I kind of can't unsee it how similar they look, or how well he played the role. You know. I don't really care for like Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury, but I do definitely care for Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al. You know, even seeing the pictures of them next to each other, you're like, wow, that's about as spot on as it could get, unless you know, for a movie casting.
Exactly.
Because it's not like they cast somebody based off of like, hey, you look exactly like Weird Al. Get in this movie, kid.
This guy can't even act.
Yeah, exactly. They would
you.
never put that first, you know. But I think they did about as good of job as they could. I thought the rest of the cast really was a standout. I thought his father, I don't have his name in front of me right now. I'm going to pull it up, but the guy who played his father was hilarious. Like easily kind of stole the movie. You know what I mean? Let me see here. What's his name here?
Is it Toby Huss?
Yeah, Toby Huss. So his performance is Nick Yankovic. I thought he really he had his moments throughout the entire movie where it was just like stealing the show, you know? I don't even know if I necessarily thought Daniel Radcliffe was even the funniest part of this movie. It was kind of all of the silly things surrounding him, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought it all starts with the dad, that character of the dad. And we'll get into that more later. I don't know. How do you feel? Do you kind of want to break this movie down, or I guess maybe give a synopsis and go through some of our favorite moments? I don't really know if I want to spoil this exactly.
Yeah, that's true. That is kind of this one of the movies that it spoiling it kind of destroys the ride or the
and
spectacle.
I don't know. This might sound like a disservice to comedy movies in general, but this specific comedy movie, I don't feel like it is warranting like a deep analysis. And I don't even know. Maybe that's sounding confident on our end that that's what we even do. But this isn't going to be like the Tar episode or the Benedetta episode or anything like that. You know, This is just really us having a fun time and doing something that we don't normally cover. And I don't even think it's because we don't want to cover these things. I just think they're really kind of few and far between, honestly.
That is just the truth. We've talked about and joked on here about doing, you know, Will Ferrell's golden run of comedies, and that is stuff we're interested in doing.
I will drop that next year, 2023, we will be doing the This Is the End 10-year anniversary episode, because that is another one of my all-time favorite comedy movies.
Yeah, which it's crazy that it's been 10 years for a comedy of that type of, how would I call it? Like, the studios were invested in those type of comedies with Seth Rogen was forefronting it with.
Yeah. You know, I don't even know what studio it is. It may be Universal, honestly, but yeah, this is what I understand what you're saying about the studio backing of comedy movies.
I mean, that movie had sci-fi.
They used to
effects.
make money. You know?
They used to have that movie has sci-fi to it. You know, sci-fi
like
effects.
special effects and stuff like that. Like it's not a cheap production. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's been since then where I really felt the comedy was given that type of budget, even, or the studio was willing to gamble on it.
Oh, it was Columbia. Yeah, because I believe Columbia and Sony Pictures is where Seth Rogen has kind of planted his flag. I know that he is part of that branch, because even now he's doing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated movie, and that's Sony Columbia. You know what? Give Seth Rogen Spider-Man. Why the hell not? Right? If it's a Sony product with some Marvel stamping on it, we should see what he could do with that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean, is he's doing something now with Sausage Party, right?
It's it's like an eventized mini series. I believe it's like maybe 8 episodes or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. So Sausage Party is not exactly my favorite piece of Seth.
As
Rogen
you guys can tell,
entertainment.
this podcast is pro Seth Rogen for many reasons, but Seth Rogen is someone, because of those comedic reasons, I think that we have that hold. He's not even in this, but it's the last time we really felt like there was something worth noting in comedy. But he was around when we were growing up, and I think you know.
Yeah, Seth Rogen. I mean, let's talk about him for 1 second. His influence on my life could not have been any bigger as a teenager. Like, oh, I just want to literally smoke weed and do a bunch of funny shit with my friends. Like, yeah, like Seth Rogen to me was like, this is literally the coolest guy that's ever lived. And maybe that shows you what my point of view of what is cool. But yeah, I mean, Seth Rogen, even now, I mean, now he's in his daddy phase. He's sexy Seth Rogen, you know, he's well put together. He's kind of like a weed smoking Mr. Rogers that everybody kind of adores. And yeah, man, I fucking love him. I can't wait to really crack into his movies.
Now he's just as cool as he was before for different reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, back to Weird, because this is why we treasure this film so much, though, is the fact that we've been itching for a comedy like this for a while. Yeah, I think we should probally give the synopsis, right?
Is that you probably, if you're listening to this, you probably can access this movie. So why the hell not go watch it? You're gonna have a really fun time. I mean, maybe if you're just like you know, we've talked about this before. There's a problem with movies now, and it's not even the movie; it's the audience problem. Is that everybody wants to be smarter than the movie they're watching, and it's like, if you paid attention and let the movie tell you what it's like, most movies are going to tell you what they're about and what's going on, and it's up to you it's up to you to decide whether that's stupid or not, you know.
Right.
But it also isn't fair to be like, well, why would they do this, you know? Like why would let's see here, like, let's say Dune, why would they do that? Why didn't they just do this? Because that's what the movie said. Be like, didn't you listen to the part where they had to go get the thing to do that?
Yeah,
you know,
that's the story.
Like, that's just you being a debate lord about well, this movie's just dumb. Okay, well then just say that. Don't say it doesn't make sense, or maybe it's just not your style of movie, you know. But
right.
Yeah, that was just a quick gripe. But that's one of the problems I feel that movie audiences have today is I want to be smarter than the movie I'm watching. So I do think that may be one reason why comedy has had to, quote unquote, elevate itself into being a more serious. I don't even know if it's serious, but when I think of the things that are the most popular, right, like Atlanta, or a couple years ago when Aziz Ansari had Master of None, or these things are like Atlanta is like surreal comedy, you know, and like Aziz Ansari couldn't have been more obviously ripping off somebody like Woody Allen, who I don't even we're not going to get into the Woody Allen of it all.
Yeah.
But his style of comedic movies were not laugh out loud, slap my knee, that was the funniest thing I've ever heard. It's a very smart, witty comedy. So I feel like that's kind of what people prefer now. But we grew up in the golden age of silly comedies, so those are the kind of things that we care about, you know. And I do think so. Yeah, if you have the access to Roku, watch this movie. And this is a message directly from Weird Al. If you can't watch this movie legally, use a VPN. Very probably not watching this movie legally to get access to it. You have Weird Al's permission, and if you've seen UHF, you would know that as well. That how he feels about those sorts of things. You know, I don't think Weird Al's going to become knocking on your door if you watch this for free. So I guess the Grand Cinema Hotel is telling you to pirate movies, yeah?
Pro.
That's parody.
R.
That's parody, Elon, if you're listening. I wanted to get into we could get into the movie a little more. I mean, let's talk Daniel Radcliffe. He's the star of the show. How did you feel about his performance as Weird Al?
I feel seen. Short King.
Would you like to elaborate on why?
Yeah, Short King.
Short King? I thought it was going to have to do with the glasses.
Oh, yeah.
This is a subject that has not been broached yet.
Oh, yeah, new relevance. So every movie now is 4K to me, finally, because I found out I was pretty blind from one eye. So
astigmatism, you said?
Yeah, on the right eye.
Alvaro has been blind in one eye since birth and never realized. Oh, well, I guess he had realized it before, right? But you didn't know the severity of it until recently.
This is coming from someone who takes pictures and also watches movies. So
I think, do you want to put the official statement out there that you recant all previous statements made about the visual level of movie making?
Yeah, all visuals in terms of me liking, disliking need reanalysis for the next 20 years. So I recant all statements in terms of maybe, we talked about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Maybe it didn't look so bad.
I usually, it's not that I would say I disagree with you when you have those takes, but it's usually like, I mean, I guess I could see what he's talking about, But then there is certain movies where I'm like, oh, maybe that does make sense. That now he's like, that looked like shit. And I'm like,
yeah.
Sure?
Yeah, exactly. I missed the effects.
Yeah, no. So we'll get back to you. If Alvaro ever said that he didn't like the way a movie looked, maybe ask him how he feels about it.
Yeah,
now,
but go watch it again.
Hit his
But
DMs.
no, but yeah, the feeling scene for the
You're like, hold
glasses.
up, Dune looks bad. Huh? Like that's your take after all of this time.
He's like, wait a
You're
minute,
like,
that looks really
Dune
fake.
only looked good because I was blind.
Yeah,
It actually
oh,
looks like
it looked
shit.
it looked more realistic. But it is true, as somebody who has glasses now, I do feel seen because Short King with glasses. No, but I did really. I think this film is the same way that Weird Al tackles something so funny, but yet is taken seriously because there's a craft there that needs to be admired. I think it's the same way Daniel Radcliffe really took on this role, because I think in terms of he chooses now what roles he does, and I think that's one of the coolest things ever, and it's because he was in some of the these little wizard movies you might have heard of.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
he wrote them. He wrote the books too, as
Yeah.
well, right?
As far as I'm concerned, yes.
Yeah, he was when he was like 5-6 years old. He wrote all of those books, and then he grew up to make the movies.
So just like Weird Al, he's one of the greatest ever, and I do think that because he chooses those roles, he kind of really tackles everything with just like really going for it, and
it's a true love for the craft. None of this is a cash grab.
no cash grab.
Yeah, no cash grabs.
And who's to say maybe he also has a connection with Weird Al, and maybe that's why he also wanted to do this. But he really is the perfect casting for this, and I personally haven't seen him in too much since the small Harry Potter films that I've seen a long time ago. And I know he has one of the coolest pictures I've ever seen, with the slippers having the akimbo guns taped to his movie. Don't know.
Guns Akimbo. That's the movie.
Never seen it, but it's one of the coolest images on the internet, and I just do definitely want to see more of him. And I know maybe he just chooses what he's in, but to really see somebody who was in these fantasy type of movies, and then also kind of every role that he picks up after just really broadens and shows that he is kind of born and meant for this.
He, I feel like his twin flame of actor is Elijah Wood, because they're around the same age, around the same time. Oh, well, Elijah Wood is actually older by, I would say, maybe quite a bit. Yeah, because I recently watched The Faculty, and Elijah Wood was a teenager, and Daniel Radcliffe was literally about 10 or 12 years old when the first Harry Potter movie came out.
Right.
Before we get too deep into that take, I did want to ask you, you were saying the few Harry Potter films that you have seen. I don't even know if we've ever talked about this before, but when we did our horror movie showdown, so if you're a new listener, I would say back in the summer when I was... my baby was going to get here, I was not going to have time to record. So I was trying to figure out how do we fill out these weeks with episodes. And my first inclination was something that I thought, maybe I can kind of force this on everyone else to kind of do these episodes, because I'm putting them in a tough spot of I need to get these episodes done. So my first inclination was doing the Harry Potter movies, because these are some of the most important movies to me in my life. I don't care how dumb that sounds. I think that the Harry Potter franchise is as good as as The Godfather or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that it is, but in my heart, it is. You know what I mean? Like, these are some of the movies that really made me love cinema. I always felt like they were a love letter to movie making, because of how big they felt and how important they felt, and the fact that kids were at the center of them. And it was one of those things where my mom took me opening night to every single one, it didn't matter. It didn't matter who we were with, if my dad wanted to go or my dad didn't want to go. My dad fucking hated the Harry Potter movies. He fell asleep in every single one of them. They're way too long. That was always his take, right? But yeah, getting back to my Elijah Wood point, Elijah Wood's got Lord of the Rings, Daniel Radcliffe has Harry Potter, and both of them have taken a very based approach to being the stars that they are. You know what I mean? Elijah Wood has produced one of the Grand Cinema Hotel's favorite movies of all time, Mandy. He helped bring that to life with Spectre Vision, his production company. Another movie of his that I really love is I believe it was a Netflix movie. That's where I seen it. I think it was called I Don't Want to Be on This Earth Anymore. And he just plays like a complete kind of weirdo, just a weirdo gonzo out there outcast of a character, Yeah. And I love that Daniel Radcliffe has kind of done the same thing. Daniel Radcliffe took a bit more of a traditional approach after the Harry Potter movies. He's in an M. Night Shyamalan movie. He's done some period pieces. He's been in Frankenstein. But I do think that he took he kind of took a hard look at his career after that and was like, why am I doing anything that I don't want to do or I don't feel 100% on? Like, kind of, looked in the mirror. I'm Daniel fucking Radcliffe. I've made, how much money I've made? I could do whatever the hell I want. And that's how you start getting things like Swiss Army Man and Guns Akimbo and now the Weird Al story. I don't think they're slept on performers or actors or anything like that, but I don't know if anyone really appreciates how like sick it is that they've chosen to take this route instead of, I don't know, doing anything else that they could be doing, being in the MCU or whatever, stuff like that.
I will say a good point that makes me think.
Maybe Daniel Radcliffe is in the MCU and I haven't even noticed.
Yeah,
I don't think
he's already sitting there. Yeah. No, I was going to say, I think a good point that you make, and it made me really think about Elijah Wood, also has like that same dynamic that Daniel Radcliffe has, and so does Robert Pattinson. And I think it's whenever you're in something that is really, taken as very fantasy, very PG rated, it kind of takes a lot to shake that image away. And even, Kristen Stewart. So I think they do these roles that completely misjudges what you might think of them, to remind you that you can't place them in one type of actor.
This is so much different than like the Selena Gomez's and the Demi Lovato's and the what's Lizzie McGuire's real name? Hilary Duff.
Yeah.
Where they kind of wanted to, I feel like they try to lean into that star power,
Yeah.
And Robert Pattinson, Kristen Stewart, those are two other really great points because they are exactly in the same boat. I mean, Robert Pattinson was literally in a fucking Harry Potter movie before he was in Twilight.
Exactly.
So I do think it's cool that we have this group of actors who really just like, I already did the thing that's going to set me up for the rest of my life. And now I have the opportunity to do what I really want, which is to be a quote unquote real artist.
And I can get respected by my peers for those things.
And I do think that these are well, I don't know about Elijah Wood. I wouldn't say he is a phenomenal actor, but I do think the other three, Daniel Radcliffe, Robert Pattinson, Kristen Stewart, that these are three of the best actors working today. I do genuinely believe that Daniel Radcliffe is a talented actor.
Yeah.
In many senses, like the serious, the drama, the being an action fantasy hero, you know what I mean? Like I would believe him in any role, and I think he embodied this role like better than I think this is his best role. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, because he's chosen the stuff that he does, and he just seems so comfortable in this role, and I think that's why the film works for me so well. Why it's so funny, I just thoroughly felt that he was having a good time filming this movie, and I couldn't imagine like what it was for him to meet Weird Al and for Weird Al to have that relationship, knowing that an actor like him is representing him for his very real biopic. So
I was reading that they actually kind of have a pretty good relationship because of the production of this movie. So Daniel Radcliffe, wanting to be a professional, he decided that he was going to try to learn some of the accordion, like just the basics of how to play the thing so he doesn't look stupid on camera, right?
Yeah.
And he mostly learned through video tutorials that Weird Al sent him. Like, okay, this is how you're going to do it to make it. So it does feel like a true partnership in like, how are we going to, like Weird Al being like, how are we going to portray me?
Yeah.
And I feel like these are two people who really just understood exactly what they were going for. Like it's a very, very good partnership. And we haven't got to him yet. I mean, obviously none of this can happen without the director. His name's Eric Apple. This is his feature film debut, but he did make this movie as a short film skit for Funny or Die like 10 years ago. And that one actually starred Aaron Paul. So Aaron Paul, in the middle of his Breaking Bad fame, just decided like, why don't I do this cool thing with Funny or Die? And I also think it's cool that this is a Funny or Die production because they were also quite important to the comedic forming of my mind as a young man, you know, when YouTube first really started popping off for me.
It's just that comedy.
Weird Al was also, coincidentally enough, like huge on YouTube in the beginning. There's so many of his songs that never got music videos that were made as animations and put on YouTube. Like Trapped in the Drive-Thru, the one we were listening to earlier.
And Jurassic World, right?
No, well, the Jurassic World, the Jurassic Park one is an actual music video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the Trapped in the Drive-Thru one is like the kind of animation that they would do when they used to upload Dane Cook jokes on YouTube.
I see.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And also, when I think of this time, you know what else I think of? I think you may have liked this as well because most kids did. Was Happy Tree Friends.
Exactly.
So that's another thing I think of when I think of Weird Al is this just that early internet time. You know what I mean? And it's kind of funny that he fits in so well with the internet because, you know, he's been around since the 80s, maybe even the early 70s. I'd have to check, but is he not like the ultimate like online kind of personality as well of like, yeah, this is where this exists now. Like anyone else who's doing this kind of thing, this is just where this would exist. Some guy in his living room filming himself on his phone.
Yeah, they do it. Everybody does it online now. No, I definitely agree with that. I think we talked about kind of like the 80s having that kind of weird and wonky type of, even in music, that was...
Devo, the Talking Heads, Flock of Seagulls, like it was kind of in to be weird. The Sparks, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was kind of in to be weird at that time.
And I think that for some reason has been one of the cultures that still kind of really resonates with how the internet is now. And I don't know if that comparison is made a lot, but I think this comedy is so... It's just so internet based, and I think the awkwardness in a lot of the scenes in this like movie or some of the outlandish things that are said is, I don't know if it's everybody's type of comedy, but to me it's something that has been missing for a couple of years.
Yeah, so it almost feels refreshing, even if it isn't your type of comedy.
And I mean, we're gonna get into it a little more than to the rest of the cast, but I did think, kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but like how Pablo Escobar's character is a character we have seen like in Broad City, and that is something else that like
the actor.
Yeah, the actor, and we've seen in Broad City and other stuff, and
It'll also be in The Menu, which he might be doing soon. Who knows?
But that's also another comedy. It's been a couple of years since that really. That I remember we first started watching that, and that's really the last thing that I can remember that even kind of tackles this kind of not, I wouldn't say the same kind of comedy, but. And well, like What We Do in the Shadows, you know, it's very internet-based humor, I think.
Or it's just the people. It's just the like. I don't want to say it's exactly millennial humor, but it's just the flavor of comedy that's in nowadays. You know, like I feel like the self-deprecating humor of like the past 10 years, like the Facebook memes and like early Twitter memes and stuff like that. I feel like that's kind of gone away, and we're more into like this like post. Self-aware, like ironic, funny world that we live in, you know, like I Think You Should Leave, and like this movie, and like What We Do in the Shadows. We're like, What We Do in the Shadows is like it's so dumb and silly that like it shouldn't be good, it shouldn't be funny, but I think that's kind of what makes it so funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like in my head, when I think of What We Do in the Shadows, I'm like, on paper, this probably sucks, but it's just, you know, those performances and I don't know, maybe the kind of stuff we see online every day that like molds us into thinking like, yeah, this is the kind of stuff that's funny.
Kids buy into Disney magic as kids, and I buy into the magic that is to just believe What We Do in the Shadows is an existing world, or what it is to this Weird Al Yankovic like biopic, and just buying into that comedy. I don't really necessarily put on the debate lord hat at that moment, you know. And I think sometimes, like you said, you can't really expect people to think they're not smarter than the movie, and that having that dynamic with the movie like this, it won't really get you won't think stuff is too funny. You kind of got to let yourself go to the art, you know.
Yeah, man, this was such a good time. I kind of want to do the cast a bit because Weird Al, see, I almost called him Weird Al. Daniel Radcliffe is obviously the star of this show. The other, I mean, really big characters is Evan Rachel Wood as Madonna, which I thought was a pretty good performance, but it doesn't feel as real as Daniel Radcliffe's performance. It feels very performative. Maybe that's just the direction that the, you know, director advised on, was to, you know, act like Madonna, but it doesn't feel like Daniel Radcliffe is doing that. And the only other really big character other than Toby Huss, the father that we'd already mentioned, was Rainn Wilson as Dr. Demento, which if you don't know, that's like Weird Al's Weird Al. you know, like he's the one who inspired him to be like this. I'm sure among many others, but that is his main source of inspiration, Dr. Demento. And I wouldn't exactly feel like that's a performance I need to hate or love. I did think it was, it was funny. It was Rainn Wilson doing what he does. I mean, it was Dwight Schrute with the beard doing the silly things that Dwight Schrute would do at the end of The Office, like in the last few seasons. Speaking of The Office, I do know that there's a connection probably between Rainn Wilson and Eric Apple, because Eric Apple has worked on The Office. I'm not sure if it was directing or writing an episode, but yeah, that's kind of where that connection comes from.
Okay,
at least.
I didn't know that.
Probably how he got him in the movie, honestly. And then the actor who you had been talking about, that who portrayed Pablo Escobar and is in one of our favorite shows, Broad City, is Arturo Castro, and he's kind of having his little moment. I've seen him in a few things recently.
Yeah, the last couple of years he's been having a little renaissance.
And another, I would say, I wanted to bring this up because the cameos, man. There's so many funny ones in this movie. One of my favorites was Quinta Brunson as Oprah.
That's so good.
I thought she actually portrayed Oprah well, like the mannerisms and the cadence of her voice, like she probably did spend a lot of time doing that. And as silly as Quinta Brunson is, I'm sure she probably just already had that down, like I'm going to impersonate Oprah all the time.
Yeah, she's very talented. And I think
Abbott Elementary, another one of our favorite shows.
Yeah. Again, different type of comedy, but I just buy into it. You know what I mean? I don't think that's the time to be very negative when you're watching that show. I think you have to really buy into.
Or an example, Abbott Elementary, Modern Family, What We Do in the Shadows. I don't try to be smarter than those shows when I watch them.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like that's what they're asking me to do. And once again, I feel like this sounds bad that I'm talking about comedy this way, but those things are not challenging me, and that's not what I'm asking them to do.
No.
So I do come in with my guard down, just ready to laugh and have a fun time,
Guys, I eat my vegetables. It's okay if I just want to watch stuff and laugh.
Yeah, this is my cotton candy. Like, this is my literal candy. I don't know is this probably good for my brain? Well, I would argue yes, because I'm enjoying this, but I'm not here for the same reasons I'm at Tar,
No, exactly.
like at all. And I do think, not to, you need to judge this movie differently or whatever, but yeah, it's like, take it easy, relax, pal. You're watching the Weird Al movie,
Yeah, and I again, a lot of the moments of actors that do show in this, like Jack Black's
as Wolfman Jack, hilarious
oh my
performance.
God, and we were talking about that. That's another person has really influenced our comedy as a kid, and I think he's really slept on in the same way. Maybe I've seen him be in a couple more things now, and I just really miss seeing a lot more Jack Black. We drop Tropic Thunder references all the time, and the last thing that I could really remember him in that was big that he was in was like Jumanji.
Oh yeah, and I was gonna even say Goosebumps before that, because
that's true.
That was like I was probably a couple years out of high school, and me and my wife, when she was my girlfriend, we went and saw that because literally just because Jack Black was in it. I was like, I'll just watch this because he's in it, not even because I really care or expect this to be good. And guess what? That movie is fucking awful. But
no surprise.
I do love Jack Black. I mean, not to plan too many episodes out in the future, but I would love to genuinely do School of Rock and Nacho Libre.
Of course.
Nacho Libre is maybe the funniest movie of all time. I mean, problematic, maybe just a tiny bit, but
it's up there, man.
For me, like as a Latino, I'm telling you, it's okay to like Nacho Libre.
Yeah, exactly.
As a Mexican,
it's acceptable.
Like Nacho Libre, he looked more like some of my cousins than some of my cousins that I would see on TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, be like, who are those guys? No. Like, I have a cousin that actually looks like Jack Black as Nacho Libre.
Another ones that I completely was surprised by, but every time he shows up, I actually like him as Patton Oswalt.
Oh yeah, I mean, come on, he's Ratatouille, even though that's not his name, but he's Ratatouille.
Yeah, I really enjoy
Spencer, man.
I think he's also someone that you see as wholesome comedy, and I just think it's one of those people. I'm like, why? How could you hate, man? He's just trying to make you laugh.
Yeah, man. He is ahead of his time as well, dude. Patton Oswalt is one of the original internet nerds that you see today. Of like, the argument, like neckbeards arguing on Twitter about the Star Wars and what it actually all means. Like, the Boba Fett literally crawling out of the Sarlacc pit. Like, I don't know if have you ever seen the clip from Parks and Rec that I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Listeners, if you haven't seen this clip, it's Patton Oswalt in a hilarious way describing how he thinks a Boba Fett movie should start while he's at a town hall meeting of all places. And that ended up being Boba Fett's actual story if you've seen the book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, so yeah, oh my god, that's just
so he's in, I would say he is in Patton Oswalt is very influential in the type of thing we do, like sitting here talking about movies and adding importance to things like the Weird Al story, like that's a very Patton Oswalt thing to do.
Nostradamus.
If you want to get some more Patton Oswalt, he recently was on I believe it was The Big Picture to do Nightmare Alley because he really enjoyed that movie and he really is highly educated on film noir. That's one of his favorite genres of movie. Yeah. And I think that he was on Blank Check also. Shout out Blank Check. He did The Killing on Blank Check. So, he's one of us, or as I guess we should say, we are one of him. We're little mini Patton Oswalts running around talking about how some of this stuff is more important than you understand.
No, yeah, I definitely feel, because I've heard him talk a couple times just about, comedy, and I know he's also had like stand-up, right?
Yeah, he's a traveling, successful, well-known stand-up act. Like, he's been on, we're going to get on the dark side of podcasting here, but, he's been on Joe Rogan many times because he's performed with Joe Rogan in arenas. And Patton Oswalt, I used to watch him on King of Queens when I was a kid, but he also had a hilarious HBO special when he was much younger that I thought was hilarious. And, he was friends with the likes of like Kevin James and stuff like that. 'Cause Kevin James is also a stand-up comedian as well, who was quite funny for a while. But I always think of this too, like maybe some people don't care for Patton Oswalt, but what I thought of his comedic chops was that there was a round table of him that used to be used in like intros to comedy specials, and it's like him, Chappelle, and like a few other legends like sitting there discussing like childhood stories and stuff. So say what you will about Dave Chappelle now, I mean, the guy is a comedic genius. I mean, I know he's kind of going in the wrong direction, but
hey,
Dave Chappelle thinks Patton Oswalt's funny, so why the hell should you not?
Yeah, he is a legend. Honestly, I'm glad you brought that up. I do really see him in that same limelight, and I think I don't know. It's just so perfect that he's in this movie. I just think he's always in the right things. He always kind of validates things that are funny.
10 years into our friendship, and isn't it funny that I just revealed now? You're like, damn, I didn't know those fools a Patton Oswalt stand.
Yeah.
Like,
but why not? Why wouldn't you be? What's not to like about the guy, honestly? Exactly. I think maybe one of the last ones you should probably bring up here is his own appearance in the movie, which is very comedic. Weird Al, he kind of talking down to himself as an executive, and then he has a partner that's just kind of talking about all the things you would not like about Weird Al, which I'm sure if you're a hater, there's a lot.
It's like what's funny is it's the 10 times better version of the scene in Bohemian Rhapsody where Freddie Mercury is arguing with the executive, the record label, is Mike Myers.
The 10 minutes or whatever?
Yeah,
about
like this is a 10 times better version of that scene. It's so comedic. And another person we should bring up because he helped make this so funny was Will Forte. He plays true. Because Weird Al was signed to a record label called the Scotti Brothers, and it was those two. And Will Forte plays like the other brother, the more aggressive dickhead brother, and he, like you said, he's just shitting on Daniel Radcliffe's everything about him. He's like, your mustache sucks, your hair is dumb, that
glasses
dumb
are
fucking
stupid.
Hawaiian shirt, your glasses are stupid, talent hack. And then the real Weird Al is just sitting there and he's like, all right, take it easy. But I do think that must have been some kind of a very therapeutic feeling for Weird Al to kind of be on that other side of the table and play the douchebag who probably turned him down for many years.
Exactly. I know it's just all for play or for show, but it is something that the fact that you can make fun of it, right? You overcame those things, like those. I don't know who the Scotti Brothers is, but I do know who Weird Al Yankovic is, So I think it's, again, this movie might not be deep in terms of maybe we're doing a disservice by calling it not so, but this is still really tackles, I'm sure, issues that Weird Al did have with his own music in terms of coming to the realization of like original songs that he wanted to make. Am I a hack job? And I do think this movie at least gives you those insights into his life, but just really covers it up with the silliness that is his music. So again, I know we've kind of talked about not deep diving in it, but I think that's why this movie I thought wasn't just really funny, but I thought was also good because it does remind me in a way of Walk Hard, where it's making fun of itself, but it also in a way is the best of what it's making fun of.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like Walk Hard, that's one of our. I mean, we quote that all the time. You don't want that, man. I think I want it. I think I want to try this cocaine. Yeah. Or you know, if you ever want to be an advocate for weed, you should just play the scene when he's talking about the guy. I forget who the actor is who's playing him. His is Tim Robbins, I believe is his name. But he's like, you don't want this, man. And he's like, why? Is it expensive? It's the cheapest drug there is. I don't want to get addicted to it. It's non-habit forming. Like, that's got to be one of the funniest scenes, honestly, in any movie. And I always thought, like, they should just use this when you're advocating for, like, weed legalization. You know what I mean? Like, just play this scene.
Play this scene. And, yeah, so this film just has a perfect honestly like spectrum of comedians that we've met through different venues of our life, and so it does feel like it was almost audiences us, right, for this movie.
Yeah, definitely, man. One cameo, you know, I'm gonna say it, I'm not really a fan of this entertainer, but one that really caught me off guard was Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I was gonna bring it up.
Right?
That's so funny.
I was like, I just saw him and I was like, no fucking way. But even him, you know, a lot of those Disney songs that Lin-Manuel Miranda makes now are quite silly. Not that Disney songs weren't before, but he does do a lot of that, like, I'm gonna make words that don't exist rhyme. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe I'll get over the Hamilton cringe one day and be able to look past that and maybe see him as the talent that he is. But right now, you know, I'm growing, I'm maturing, but I'm still not ready to get past that.
The Hamilton cringe does still kind of come from parody, no? You know what I mean? It's thinking like, what if this was this instead? Like,
yeah. Is that what people who don't like Weird Al think? You know,
yeah.
That he's like, oh, it's Hamilton, yeah. Wow, we're putting things together that I never thought we'd put together here. I wasn't expecting to go.
I'm telling you, this is a deep movie. Yeah, a lot of truths come out. I think kind of moving more into the movie, because I know we're not really gonna kind of get into the plot too much. I only see we could give the synopsis of this movie. I don't think we've done that yet, right?
Yeah, let me see. So the Weird, the Al Yankovic story, is a satire of biopics and is loosely based on Yankovic's life and career as an accordionist and parody songwriter. Yeah, it's. I know. Okay, I know. We've been joking about that. This is a very factual movie. It's like a documentary, but there's nothing really here to talk about that's worth spoiling, I guess, because it's like, just go see it, because it's not even what you think it would be. So it's like, if you knew Weird Al before this, or you're a fan of him, you're still not going to expect what happens in the movie, you know, because it, like we said, it might as well be about a fictional person.
Yeah, it might as well be.
Which plays so well into the you know, the Weird Al of it all, you know, like I kind of brushed over it earlier, but you know, the director, Daniel Radcliffe, Funny or Die, Weird Al himself, like, it just feels like as a group everybody kind of understood what they were making and everybody was on the same page. And I do think that that's why this movie is so fucking funny and so well done. And I'm hoping that it gets a lot more praise than it has been, or not, I guess not praise, because it has been well received by most people who have seen it. I feel like critics love this movie. Letterboxd likes this movie a lot. I'm sure I already know there's going to be a group of people on film Twitter who hate this movie, but yeah, I'm kind of getting off my point here, but I don't think that there's any reason to really kind of get into this movie too much, because
exactly, no, I understand.
It's not real. It's not like, oh, if I could just read the Wikipedia article and I already got the whole story, you know. Like, I told somebody today that they should watch this movie. I was like, it's about Weird Al's life, and they were like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah, but it's not really. Like, it's just a comedy, funny movie. Go see it, you know.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but it's definitely, like, I don't want to ruin it for you. We have it playing in the background right now, and I guess, in all honesty,
it's on Roku, right? Why not bump these numbers up? In
all honesty, the kid who's Richard Aaron Anderson's his name does do a really good job of playing a young Al as well. I mean, there is a lot of time here of establishing him as that age, and I did feel like the scene that we're coming up on right now where he plays the accordion
publicly for the first time.
Yeah, is just one of the funnier scenes in here. Kind of retroactively, because we're going to talk about this a little differently. I couldn't get over the fact, and you were quoting it all day, and it's one of the funniest things. Like, it would just be better if you stop pursuing your dreams. You, me, and your dad.
So, yeah, his mom and dad are, scolding him for being the weirdo that he is, because that's a movie trope. That's a music biopic trope for sure. Or biopic trope for sure. And I'm sure most people have had these kind of moments between their parents as well. But the mother tells him, she's like, oh yeah, we talked and this is gonna be tough to hear. And in my head, I'm like, oh shit, they're about to get divorced right now, right? And they're like, we both agreed that it would just be better if you stopped being who you are and doing the things you love. And I guarantee you, most kids have felt that way at least once in their life. So that was just, like you said, one of the funnier moments of the movie. I do think the sequence, or the scene that features like the most cameos, maybe even more than a Marvel movie that I've ever seen, of just like every kind of 80s weirdo you can think of. Tiny Tim, Gallagher,
Dali,
Pee Wee Herman, Salvador Dali, and Andy Warhol are there. It's just a who's who of these 80s. Divine, you know what I mean? Just a who's who. And that was one of my favorite sequences, because I couldn't help but feel like it looked like Boogie Nights, or like that's kind of the inspiration for that scene.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe when I watch, maybe because Boogie Nights is so influential to me, that whenever I see a backyard pool party scene that has tracking shots, I'm like, this is Boogie Nights. Yeah,
No, I don't think about it like that, but I can see that from that scene. Maybe it's as simple as the way that it's shot, but he's the parody king, maybe. They're like Boogie Nights, right?
Would you be surprised if this movie, of all movies,
also parodied the movies?
Exactly. Like, I do think that polka party scene that you're mentioning, like, I can't help but feel like the super bad energy just like crawling out of it, or oozing out of it, I should say.
Kids, I was going to say, a big point that made us laugh all day too about this is how the accordion is seen as like the devil's instrument, right? And how evil, and it's like drugs, and like, there's just scenes where it's just taken as the most wild thing that you could have is an accordion. And I do think actually it's worth noting that some of the truth that does come out of this doc, and just kind of made me really think about is that there isn't a lot of accordion players that I actually would know, and it's sad that I wanted to kind of maybe ask you this, because I have been thinking about this. Is like, how many accordion players do you know, right? Weird Al for me is the only one, but I know that you've listened to more Spanish music in your life than I have. Do you know, like, is there a maybe a Spanish artist or someone you've heard where like their thing is the accordion? The thing is,
like, where they're the leader, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's usually they're not the leader. They're so Spanish music is a lot of groups, a lot of bands, and the accordion is a very featured instrument. But there's segments in songs that I can think about where the accordion plays a really big role, but I wouldn't say that I know anybody's name off the top where he's a really good accordion.
It's not like where you'd be like, oh, this is the guy who plays the guitar in that band.
And maybe that's my American take on that. Maybe I'm really wrong on that, but I'm just saying the accordion is a very beautiful instrument, and it's funny that one of the only people that I can really think of that can. I brought this up before too, how Kenny G and him kind of remind me of each other, but I don't know if Kenny G can play the accordion. I know I know he's a sax king, but I don't know about the accordion. But the fact that that's also something that I'm not really exposed to, and the way that it's taken in this movie into such a comedic type of route is, I think, just one kind of just really shows you the type of tone that this movie is.
Did you know, I'm going to sound like a Wikipedia article here, but do you know about the influence of German polka music on Spanish music, specifically like Mexican music? That's why the accordion is featured so heavily in Mexican music nowadays, is because when the Germans came to Mexico, whenever they did, I don't know if this is colonizer shit or not, but when German people came to Mexico, and obviously, some culture is shared, that the accordion was like, the Mexicans were like, yo, what the fuck?
What is that?
Like,
this is tight.
I need this.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever put two and two together, that some Mexican music kind of sounds like polka music.
Yeah.
But, you could be at a Mexican party and be like, damn, this is some Matterhorn ass music. Where the hell am I in Fantasyland at Disneyland?
hee hoo.
Some yodelay hee hoo ass. Nah, man. But yeah, I don't really know any accordion players either, honestly. The movie makes a funny point to point out that Weird Al, when he's arguing with his dad, that biopic music moment, like even in, speaking of Jack Black, even like Tenacious D, when he's arguing with his dad at the beginning, he tells his dad, I'm going to be the best accordion player there's ever been. Maybe not technically, but the best in a very specific genre of music.
Yeah, it's just that humor that we're talking about almost every day. But there's some people that would say these type of things very seriously, and I think it's like making fun of it so much. This is kind of a random thought because I was thinking about influences of this movie and kind of maybe influences that Weird Al had is Spinal Tap, and I was just thinking about how, like, Take It to 11 and just kind of making a mockumentary and those type of films, and how this kind of really, again, Walk Hard and Spinal Tap, those things all live in their own type of realm. But even then, they like, it's interesting to see how that, I could see how that connects the two. You know what I mean? Like Spinal Tap and Weird Al is the reason why we are even able to get things like this.
I kind of wanted to get back to the point you just made prior to the end of that statement about the taking it serious or the not taking it serious aspect of this movie, and a lot of that is because of the line delivery.
Yeah,
and I do think that it's like even going back to what you were saying about like the polka parties and the accordions being like a substitute for drugs in this movie, of like, oh my god, I found my son playing the accordion, like it's something to be ashamed of. I do like that Weird Al has always been self-aware enough to be like, yeah, this is pretty dorky. But yeah. I'm gonna embrace that I'm a nerd. I'm gonna embrace that I'm an outcast, and I'm just gonna do my fucking thing. And the countless years of touring and the albums and the 5 Grammys and the getting a movie about his own life, that this guy has lived one fucking hell of a life just by accepting who he is and leaning into it and just fucking owning it. And I do think that that's another reason why this movie is done so well. Is just that, like I was saying earlier, everyone kind of understands that message. And I don't know, maybe if I wanted to get deep for a second, I would say that this movie, what it's really trying to say is to like just embrace who you are, like be your inner weirdo, like in a legal way. But
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
in a legal way.
Weirdo, yeah. You know what I mean? And fucking let your Weird Al wig out and fly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he is him, and I think the confidence that he has to be him, and I think we talked about too. Weird Al is Weird Al when he's that character.
This is not an easy person to be like, yo, just be yourself. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he chose something easy. Like, oh man, I'm a hot guitar player who makes rock and roll music and everybody loves me. It's like, no, this is who I am. I'm an accordion player who makes silly songs.
Yeah, and you guys are gonna love it.
Yeah, you guys are gonna love it. I mean, I never knew one was a good point to bring this up, but I have actually witnessed the magic of Weird Al live.
Yeah.
When I was a child, Weird Al would play at the OC Fair every once in a while. So when I was in the midst of my Weird Al mania in elementary school, I had my parents take me. I'm sure that was not a thing they enjoyed very much, but I always loved that was something that they did for me, because it made me feel like they embraced my weirdness as well. Like, all right, my kid's fucking dork. He wants to go see Weird Al, but all right, here we go. They took my sister. We made a family night out of it, and I was the only one kind of enjoying himself.
Tell your dad now that there is the guy from Harry Potter had a Weird Al Yankovic movie. He's like, no way.
He'd be like, no mames.
Like, are you serious?
Yeah. And my dad would be like, wait, so it's a Harry Potter movie and Weird Al's in it?
Yeah.
No, fool, not that. Why would it be that?
Like, damn, Weird Al looks young.
Yeah, man. I guess that's the message in this movie, right? Is be yourself.
No, yeah, that is ultimately, again, not talking about there is no deep cuts in this movie, but like I said, it's him really embracing his life and that how far he has come being himself. He's always wearing the Hawaiian shirts in the whole movie. I think even that he's always been aware that the stuff that he likes is nerdy, and he kind of just leans into it. And in the 80s, he kind of, like you said, very questionable way of looking at that time, but obviously was very the opposite of that. Very Mr. Rogers.
You know what? I rarely ever do this, and you know what? I hope you're listening to this episode, because right now we were just looking at one of these Weird Al outfits of a Hawaiian shirt, some black pants and some checkerboard Vans, and you know who I couldn't help but think of is a good friend of the show, one of our dedicated listeners is our friend Luke. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, Luke, I would like to know if you like Weird Al, because I can't help but feel the Weird Al energy now that I've put the two and two
Good.
together.
Like, wait a minute. This reminds me of
Shout out
something.
Luke. He's one of the funniest people I know. Every time I see him, I have such a fucking good time with him. I always laugh my ass off as much as I really can. I always feel like when I hang out with him that God damn it, my face is gonna hurt and my stomach's gonna hurt from how much I'm gonna laugh. So I would like to know, Luke, if you are listening, are you a Weird Al fan? Because I'm kind of putting two and two together here.
Like, oh.
Audiences, I'm waiting with bated breath to find out. So I guess we'll let you know if we do find out. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe trying to get into the movie a little more. One of the big topics of this movie is his fictional, non-fictional relationship with Madonna. Do you know much about that, or have you looked into it at all since you've seen the movie? Like, is this real? Is this not?
This movie seems to be very little anti-Madonna, which is,
But in
fine.
a comedic way, though. I don't think Weird Al is actually in the same way that it's an anti-Michael Jackson movie. Like, for a minute, I thought, like, oh, is Weird Al trying to say something about, like, the I don't know, the morality of Michael Jackson, of like, I don't want to talk about him anymore. Like, I don't want to give him a platform.
It is just jokes, though, right?
But it does end up being just jokes, which of course it is. It's Weird Al.
Exactly.
And with Madonna too, yeah, the movie does come off as anti-Madonna, but I rarely doubt that. It's just for comedic effect.
I just think that's making fun of the tropes of movies. You need the one girl who derails the movie star.
Yeah, she is his antagonist, though. Just the fact that it's her is so funny.
Yeah.
I know the real world connection is that. So with Weird Al, his whole thing was that he never took a request for songs, right? So for legal reasons, he never took fan requests or fan ideas, because many people that he inspired would send him songs like, here, I think you should do this. This could be your next hit song. And he was like, for legal reasons, I'm not fucking doing that, because I don't want someone trying to claim the publishing rights to my music, right? But Madonna, of all people, is the only person, and I don't know if this is actually true or not, this is just widely speculated, is that Madonna directly influenced Like a Surgeon. Like, she's like, you should make this version of my song and like call it Like a Surgeon. So then Weird Al had gotten word of this because he was his manager was friends with Madonna or close with her manager or something like that. So it became like, she's known as the only person who got to kind of request a Weird Al song, because many people did not like being parodied by Weird Al.
Yeah, we talked about the Coolio.
Yeah, for many years I don't think Coolio enjoyed the fact that he was parodied by him.
Amish Paradise, not a fan. But I think it's interesting because especially at that time, Madonna asked you to do anything, Weird Al could be as dorky as he is, but he is a man, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he's like, exactly. Yeah, you know what? And I mean, Madonna is who is to say that Weird Al, maybe it'd have to retrospectively look, but would Weird Al really even choose a Madonna song? Maybe it's because she's brought to his attention that she was aware of him, that it's kind of like, okay, this is like fun. It seems like something he'd be interested in making after you find out. Like, I didn't know this was a venue that somebody would want to, like, if the artist is validating it, I think that's all the green light he would possibly need,
Yeah, so his creative process has obviously changed over time. I doubt he ever asked anybody for permission, but I do know now that he has a better relationship with some artists than he has had in the past.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, Prince refused to ever let Weird Al do his music. That was a no-go for Prince, and that makes sense. I mean, it's fucking Prince, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the only one who gets to do that.
I think that man, he's like, I came up with everything in this song. You're not just gonna bite it and put different lyrics
obviously, in it. Coolio, like we mentioned, did not like Amish Paradise. I know that Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers was very unimpressed and disappointed by Bedrock Anthem, one of Weird Al's parodies of a Red Hot Chili Pepper song. But I've also seen that he has worked with, like, okay, so he did a song with he did a parody of Radioactive by Imagine Dragons called Inactive, and they were, a willing participant, so they helped him recreate the music, like the technology that went into making the music, so that he could,
Spoof it.
make it sound exactly the same.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you know much about how parody music works and the way that you can get away with it legally, is that you can't just take the track and then add your own lyrics to it. To get away with parody, you have to re-record the music yourself. So if it's pretty straightforward, and you get a good band, you can do it. But when there's certain songs that kind of push the boundaries technology wise, how are you going to do that if you're not the one who invented that method? So like Imagine Dragons was a band that really was influential in, like, not influential, that's the wrong word, but like would help him make the song, And then there's been other artists where they, they're fans of Weird Al. They really appreciate the fact that he's going to parody them. And then when they're making the parody, like the track, he would get the artist from the actual band to do it with him, or like do some of the backing vocals or whatever. So it's like, it's very authentic as well. So I don't know how some people feel about samples or not, or, I don't know. I obviously think he's hilarious, and I think he's a creative genius, and I always have thought that, because the music that he does make, some of it is not even, it's like, yeah, it's a parody, but this is an original song that has nothing to do with the song he's parodied. He's just using their music,
Yeah.
I don't know.
The lyrics to it and you would say the pacing to it is still something he has to account for, and he can't just really like write a story and kind of make it as we were listening to before, Trapped in the Drive-Thru.
I think that's his magnum opus. It's not my favorite song, but I do think that that's his greatest achievement.
And it's because of that. It's just a trip about, it's funny because his girlfriend's not even hungry. I knew where it was heading, but it's just to be able to even make something out of that is something that, a lot of these things could be like exercises for people to think of. And like he really takes those story building elements and adds them to something so simple like that. And I think that's could arguably is harder than really creating fluff. It's sometimes really hard to strip away everything and make it fit into something that's already made, And
Yeah.
so I do
Absolutely,
think
man.
it's I agree with you. I obviously haven't been exposed to him as long, but I think he lives on, kind of like he jokes on here, he lives in a lane of his own, and I think it's something worth noting. And we talked about how long he's been doing it, and I think that's why it's something worth bringing up, because if it just was a gimmick, or if this was such an 80s thing, he wouldn't still be around, and this movie wouldn't be getting made now. We wouldn't be
He's still
talking
going
about
strong,
it now.
and not only is he going strong, he said he's kind of done releasing albums, or at least that's an idea that's kicking around in his head. Is
Yeah.
that like, I don't know, albums themselves seem kind of dated for what I'm doing. And so why not, obviously he came from a slower time, you know what I mean, where things were relevant for much longer. So
That's
if
true.
you make a Jurassic Park song maybe a year after the movie comes out, which I don't even know if that's the timeline for that, but I just wanted to use that example. 2 years later doesn't seem like a long time. But if you wanted to make a Jurassic World song now, you better drop that shit the week the movie comes out, because in 2 weeks, people forgot Jurassic World existed.
Yeah, but like, what movie is that?
Yeah, so he's saying that he's leaning more towards the idea of EPs or just singles, because it gives them the ability to be like almost like South Park. God, I didn't want to say Saturday Night Live because they're 2 years behind. They're
Yeah.
like, hey kids, dab. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's kind of just the mindset that he's in right now. It's like, I could probably just do this. And also, to speak to his relevance, this isn't even the only movie he had come out recently. He has an animated Netflix movie that's out right now as well. Because I was checking out his Twitter today. Well, that website still exists, and yeah, he was like, "What, you think this is my only movie this week?"
Yeah, exactly. How would you think that? And I think that always kind of goes to show that a lot of these people that we grew up with, sometimes we don't get. Well, he's not directly. Maybe we wouldn't be even making really the podcast and talking about him had this movie not been invented. There's not really a connection there, but
yeah, we would have never done UHF. I mean, I come out here with some takes sometimes of movies that we should do, but I never once thought like we should do UHF.
yeah. I mean, the door is open now because of, Hey guys, get on the Patreon, right? We like gotta.
Yeah, man. If we ever have a Patreon, you could ask for whatever episode you want for $5 a month. Shit.
Yeah, anything
I'll
you
do
want.
2, 3, whatever, man. I don't care.
But yeah. So I just really enjoyed that this movie really opened up that segue, even in terms of me knowing how much you really like Weird Al. I think that's always an interesting thing to find out through the podcast.
Yeah, I know. You know what? I had mentioned this to you earlier. Is that so? I had one friend in elementary school who was my intro to the world. You know, like him and his dad, huge Weird Al fans. So they were my disciples. They showed me the light. You know,
they were like, well, have you heard him in '86? Huh?
Yeah,
live.
And you know what's funny is much like how you were saying how the accordion and polka music is treated like drugs. Like it was something that was like, shh, don't tell anybody else about this, right? So then, like I said, I didn't really have anyone to talk to about it except for the one friend, and then because he's just like an elementary school friend, and kind of drifted apart over many years. And then I went to that Weird Al concert. My parents supported me, even though they were not really enjoying this kind of stuff, but. Yeah, once I got to like middle school, high school, I kind of realized that it was like, oh shit, this dorky? Like I didn't even know that. Like I thought this was the coolest shit ever. Like Weird Al's not #1 on the charts. You know what I mean? So then I had to kind of like hide it. You know what I mean?
No, I get it.
This was like a repressed thing for me. Like now that it's come out recently, I was like, oh hell yeah, Weird Al's back in fashion. Finally, people know what's up.
You've been lurking in the shadows.
Yeah,
huh?
I've been waiting for this moment. Haha, sickos.
He's like cute as a Russell Westbrook eating the sandwich in the side. He's like, wait, he's corny. That's crazy.
Oh man, nobody likes Weird Al anymore.
Oh dang.
Nah, man. One thing, back in the day when people would burn CDs, if you're a younger listener, you're probably like, what the fuck are you talking about? But when you would, my dad had a guy who would burn CDs. So when I got into Jimi Hendrix, when I got into Led Zeppelin or AC/DC, my dad would come home with a CD just full of like, as many songs as a CD could fit, right? And 21. I had him do that with Weird Al, and I always often wondered what that conversation had been like, because my dad, he's a salt of the earth factory worker. You know what I mean? So to see him probably go into some other like some other dude who probably used to be a cholo ex-felon and be like, yo, can you download the Weird Al discography for my son? Like,
yeah.
I always wonder how that conversation went down. And, looking back on it, like, this is the kind of things that I appreciate that my parents were like, my dad hated that shit, but he'd be like, hey, fool, my son wants the Weird Al CD.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, all right, they support me. They support this weirdness.
Hey,
but
fool.
even now, now that I'm a dad, I'm already passing along the weirdness of Weird Al to my child. She's 5 months old, and one of the things we do every day is when I come home from work, we have a little mini concert, and I pick her up and I sing to her and I play the music video, and I don't know, it's my way of like, instead of having to read like some dumb children's book for the millionth time, I'm like, let's enjoy this together, because I do think that it's already had an effect. And I think music is like her favorite thing, as much as a 5-month-old can have a favorite thing, because it's the only thing I can really do to get her to, like I could snap her out of it, or if she's in a bad mood, or I can get her to laugh, or if she's sleepy and, it's not really working, I'll just pick her up and we'll watch some music videos and sing together. And, like a Surgeon, Jurassic Park, The Saga Begins, these are very much in the rotation of songs that my daughter hears every single day. And I'm wondering, I'll let you know what kind of effect that has on a young mind.
Yeah.
So this will be an ongoing, check in to see how the progress is going with if this is making my daughter strange or not.
A study. A live study.
Instead, I won't lie. After we watched Tar, I played Mahler's Symphony No. 5 for her, because I was like, you know what? Fuck. I always heard that playing classical music is good for kids. And she's over here listening to David Bowie and Bad Bunny and Weird Al and Kali Uchis and things like that.
Like, listen.
Her musical palette is definitely more expanded than the average 5-month-old. We're not exactly listening to Baby Shark in this household.
Yep. And I think that'll be a good thing. She'll be like, Baby Shark sucks.
I don't know. She already seems like a weirdo to me, and she's only 5 months old. So thank you, Weird Al.
Yeah. and it's just really interesting that it's a really great thing that something that you also grew up with is something you can connect now. And it's just, the fact that it is Weird Al means something. And I think the fact that this movie got made now means something. It's not just, a coincidence. I think there is, for the right people, or maybe like you said, he produced this, but it seems that there is the same way we've kind of are going to talk about the Fablemans is him talking about his fable,
Oh yeah, huh? Oh shit, huh? You're breaking the fourth wall here. I'm like, what do you mean when we talk about the Fablemans? Oh man, but you know what? I think we had addressed it in that episode, anyways, right? That
Yeah.
you were hearing this from the past. Oh man. Yeah, you know what? I didn't want to make the connection, but I'm glad you did. That this did give me the same kind of joyous whimsy that the Fablemans did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, fuck. I wasn't gonna put that together, but I'm glad you did because now I can just agree with you. Yes, this does remind me of the Fablemans in a weird way, honestly.
I guess but this is for him. Like,
Yeah, if the Fablemans was the classic Steven Spielberg, a love letter to the magic of movies, this was definitely a love letter to the magic of weird, and how important that is to somebody like Weird Al and everybody involved with this.
that's what I was gonna say is because we've been watching the movie in the background for a while now, and I think that's what the involvement of all these people we had first brought up means so much. Is even to him retroactively be able to. Daniel Radcliffe is playing me. Jack Black is in this movie. Lin-Manuel Miranda. Conan, which I don't know. He might be a fan of. Conan was on TV for a long time. And
Conan didn't even remember that he was in this movie. Have you heard that story?
Really?
Yeah, he was like, "Oh yeah, I definitely forgot that I had done this."
As Andy War, yeah, he has like a small role. So yeah, I think it's somebody who the world can't have more of him because he's just so unique. But the world would be a much better place if this biopic was actually true.
Yeah, man. Fucking, if he really was the #1 artist of all time, that would be fucking sick.
Little
You're
kid
right.
Gus would be like, I told you.
I feel so validated. Finally, yes, comedy is the most important thing in the world, And I don't know, maybe I feel like I have gotten away from that feeling a bit just because I don't get it as much nowadays. But there's nothing more I love doing than laughing, making people laugh. I'm not trying to say I'm the funniest person ever, but I do think that that's still probably the #1 feeling that I can really get is if I can get someone to laugh. That to me is like funnier than or better than anything I can really think of doing.
Especially the
when I think
boomers.
of comedy and I think of laughter, I do think of like that's love. You know what I mean? Like that. That's like my way of showing love to people. It's like I want to make you laugh, or I want to share a hilarious moment with you that I'll always remember. Because I don't know, man. Feel like it sure does feel good to laugh and smile.
Yeah, especially
Crazy take.
Oh
right?
yeah, like laughing is good.
Yeah.
It's always funny to make, especially the boomers laugh.
Oh yeah, definitely. If I can get an old person to laugh, that is like those are free serotonin boosts.
Validations.
You know what I mean? I guess they just let anybody in here.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
they're so easy.
Definitely, man. If you could get an old person to laugh, like someone who's like 50 and is like serious and doesn't care about shit anymore except for work in their house or whatever, their health problems. If you can get somebody like that to crack a smile, there's like no better feeling, or even a baby too. If you can get a baby to smile, like that's how you know you're valid. Yeah, I'm a good person,
Yeah, seriously.
Oh man. I'm kind of ready to wrap it up, honestly. If you can't tell, we had a really, really fun time watching this movie. Daniel Radcliffe for Best Actor, Weird the Al Yankovic Story for Best Picture, a sweep at the Oscars. Please, 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 please.
I mean, we got to R.I.P. He ate it, right? And
Oh, yeah. A little too much into the movie here, pal. I don't want to talk about this. Let's just let the audience figure that out on their own. But that is a quite hilarious movie overall. Oh, I did want to say one thing is that this movie, I will say it's an $8 million movie, but somehow it looks, I can't tell if it looks like a $16 million movie or if it looks like a $3 million movie, honestly. But one of my favorite effects I've seen of the year, and it's such a simple, practical effect that's been done for many, many years, is reminiscent of Belloc's head melting in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Is
nice.
There is a clip that Weird Al posted on Twitter. It's a behind the scenes of a literal head melting scene and how it was done. And for a little movie junkie like me, that's the kind of stuff I love seeing. Like the recently saw the Audrey 2 clip today of
Yeah.
how good Audrey 2 looks, or the one that maybe my all-time favorite Twitter behind the scenes clip is the animatronic Gabriel head on the back of
Yeah.
the lady from Malignant.
Yeah,
the
that
back of
does
her
look
head,
cool.
the animatronic, how they got that to work. Oh, I fucking love that stuff. So give Weird Al a follow on Twitter or check out his Twitter because he's posting all about this. There's like behind the scenes shit. You know, he is positivity retweeting everything that he sees about the movie. So dive into the world if you haven't, man. You'll definitely come out laughing on the other side. And I don't really have much more to say, so I'm gonna leave it at that. What about you?
Yeah, I'm pretty wrapped up too. Like I said, a movie. I don't even remember if at the end of last year we talked about our most anticipated. I didn't know this movie was coming out. Became noticed of it pretty soon, before it was going to be released. I'm pretty sure that was on purpose, but I'm just really glad this came out. I'm glad that it's free for everybody to watch, and I'm just glad that someone like Weird Al has kind of gotten some attention that I think honestly he deserves. I feel like he's got a lot still to go, you know? Like there's no reason for him to not be able to do the stuff that he still does. Like you said, maybe people don't hold on to songs as much as they used to, but he is also a talented original artist. So I think there's just a fan base that he'll always have. And I'm just glad that I was able to kind of go into the world a little more, you know?
Yeah, man. Weird, the Al Yankovic story. I think now that the year's coming to a close, it's almost wrapped up. I think I'm going to drop the rating system, not because I feel, oh, it's stupid to do it or it's stupid to not do it. I don't know. I feel like there's no need to put a number on how much I enjoy a movie anymore, honestly. But I highly recommend this movie. I guess a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If I'm going to give it a thumbs up for sure. Like, yeah, check this out. If you have a Roku TV, it's right there. If you don't have a Roku TV, the Roku app is free. You're going to have to watch it with a few ads, but who cares? Just fucking watch the movie. Or, go the VPN route, arg, mateys.
Arg.
But yeah, man, check out this movie. Watch it with the buddy. Watch it alone. You're going to laugh. You're going to cry. You're going to really have a good fucking time, man. So, yeah, Grand Cinema Hotel. Like, subscribe, comment, do all the stuff you got to do to make us the most famous, successful podcast that's ever lived. And we love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.